Welcome to the Phoenix Prosperity Podcast, where wealth meets legacy. Join your host, Tim Fergestad, as we explore the journeys of Phoenix's finest to success and beyond.
Hello, this is Tim Fergestad. Thank you for joining us. I'm very pleased to have Sam Shepard with me here today. Sam is the founder and CEO of 3DA, a nonprofit that advocates for individuals with developmental disabilities. Welcome to the show, Sam.
Thank you for having me, Tim. I appreciate it.
All right, so we were just talking before the show. We're both from Minnesota originally. I'm in the Northwest Valley here in Phoenix. He's in the Southeast. He's down in Mesa right now. But why don't you give us a snapshot of why you're in Arizona? Is 3DA local here, or is it national? And how'd you get involved?
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess backstory, being from Minnesota, I grew up in the Twin Cities area, a small town called Hastings. Went to school at University of Minnesota Duluth, and you had said you also did, Tim, which is great.
I am also from the southern suburbs of the Twin Cities, and I also went to the UMD. So yeah, we're brothers.
Exactly. But yeah, I went to UMD and I studied political science and criminology. And during my time there, I didn't know what I wanted to do. The typical college question is, oh, what are you going to do after college? And I didn't really know. Most people don't. And I was also part of the student body government on campus, which was really cool because that gave me the chance to, connect with administrators, faculty, staff, advocating for students. That's really where I learned the term advocacy and what it really meant to advocate for other people. And so after my first year of school, that summer, I just needed some job, obviously, just to, pay for things. So I got a job at FedEx, and I was there for about, 2-3 weeks, and I'm like, I hate this. And I wasn't good at it. Like, I was in the truck loading boxes, and we had this little load rate scanner on our, it'd be on our index finger trying to scan everything. I was very slow at it. I was not good at it. I didn't enjoy it. It was hot and humid in there. So I ended up looking online for jobs near me, and I found this great job as a direct support professional for a day program for adults with developmental disabilities. That was an organization called Customized Options, and when I got the job there, I immediately left FedEx for that, obviously. And it was just a new experience learning, about this field of developmental disabilities and obviously the importance of everyone's day-to-day life. But the thing that really struck me was hearing all the horror stories that happen to people. So specific people we serve being, abused in the past, or their family exploiting their money. And, all that kind of stuff was just really horrific. And it obviously angered me. I didn't really know what I wanted to do about it. And so I worked there. It was summer 2018, winter break of 2018, and then summer of 2019. And then come around fall of 2020, I get a job as a DSP at a group home. And just seeing how well that group home was ran compared to the group homes I'd pick people up from for the day program, that's where the idea of 3DA came to life. And it was literally when we were in the basement of the group home, me and one of the other residents, and one of the residents was in the shower, and they didn't really need too much assistance. They just needed a staff person down there just to be able to hear if they needed anything. It was really right there when, it was said to me to start 3DA. And it was really cool because I didn't really know, fully what that meant until now. And I think I'm still learning what that means to really do it. But, the aspect of the time, and still is to advocate for people with developmental disabilities. And so that around that time, that was my last semester of college also. So I was luckily, going to be done from classes and stuff after, so I could, fully engage in starting 3DA. But really at that time was finding board members, how to do that. And then I moved down to Arizona. I was just sick of the winter. I just wanted a reset button, just refresh. I knew a lot of people from the Twin Cities that they just stayed there, and that was their whole life. Which you can do that if you want. I just didn't really want to do that. You obviously didn't want to do that either.
No, I'm here by choice.
Exactly. So I decided to move out here. It was January of 2021. So it was the day that all that political stuff happened, which is kind of interesting because ironically that same day, the next year was the day that I filed 3DA through the state of Arizona. So that day has like a different meaning to me than what the news and all that stuff says. Not to discredit it, but um, and yeah, from there it really took time to establish, our mission, our vision, our priorities, all that stuff. And now our priorities are, legal rights and assistive technology. So legal rights will be anywhere from special education, self-advocacy, current events, having, past court cases on our website, all that kind of stuff to help people understand and just feel empowered. And then on the assistive technology side, really just trying to have information about assistive technology as widespread as we're able to, because there's so much stuff in like the corners of the internet and just around the world that a lot of people just aren't aware of that they should be. So not only just that, but pushing for more assistive technology policies is definitely something that we've been working on and want to continue to do. One example of that is we had our first bill here in Phoenix, here in Arizona earlier in the year, and that was to create an assistive technology study committee. The initial intention of the bill was to create what's called technology first, implement that here in Arizona. And that's really an assistive technology, or more so broadly technologically speaking, how you can use technological solutions before other solutions when helping people with developmental disabilities. And that really helps promote, obviously, assistive technology in general is going to help promote independence, and with that, it's also going to help alleviate staffing shortages and burdens on caregivers, and it's also going to be cost effective.
Okay, why don't you give us an example of the type of technology you're talking about?
Yeah, so assistive technology is very broad based. It's intentionally that it's literally going to be any device, item, system, or like software that helps improve someone's ability in some area. So an example could be a wheelchair. That's a very common example, or even as far as glasses. Or for like the high tech side, it can be you know AI like at home devices that basically help automate different things around your house. Or it could even be like speech to text or text to speech, those kind of softwares. And
Right.
it's really gonna be everything in between that as well.
Okay, so think like uh sort of like an Alexa that can, I mean, that's a
Yeah,
higher
exactly.
end one. Okay,
Yes,
that
that's a great example of that. And that like obviously that's a convenience for, anyone that uses it, but especially for people that need, hey Alexa, remind me at 2 o'clock that I need to, take my medication. Because that's a
right,
big thing is with having people, being able to live on their own, but just need a few supports here and there. That's a big part is, medicine dispensing and, reminders
right,
for things. There's a lot of apps that help with reminding people various tasks or things like that as well.
right, right. A lot of times the alarm goes off, you don't know why, but if you have a smart technology assistant telling you why the alarm's going off, or to remind you that the refrigerator's still open, or anything, that
Mhm.
yeah, okay.
Yeah,
Uh,
but I do want to backtrack. Sorry, I did mean to add with assistive technology, there is like low, mid, and high tech. So high
sure.
tech software is that stuff. Mid tech is
Right.
kind of the gray area between low and high tech, and low tech is going to be, this is the low tech area is definitely not talked about enough because there's a lot of different things that people can use that's low tech that's just very simple to either make or find. So like one example could be like an adaptive writing tool. So basically like an easier grip for people to be able to write better. Or there's a lot of adaptive terms and things like adaptive utensils to help people eat. There's kind of some cuffs that people can, basically attach to anything that they're trying to pick up,
Right.
and it can even be like lace clips for your like shoelaces as well. So I just wanted to
Right.
put that in there because low tech is always something that's, very much so overlooked. People
Right.
think about,
Right.
the
The new
gadgets.
sexy toy. Right.
Exactly, exactly. So yeah.
Okay. Okay. And I guess uh well, before we get into to more of the technology stuff, let's backtrack a little bit and talk about what 3DA means, why you picked that name, and what was the inspiration that caused it back in that basement a year or two prior.
Yeah, absolutely. So the name itself, I don't know how exactly it popped in my head. I just say God told me that name. So it is short for Delegation for Developmental Disability Advocacy.
Okay.
I did kind of take that trick, I guess, from 3M because I can't, it's like Minnesota Minerals Mining, something like that. I can't
Okay.
remember exactly what it is, but it kind of popped in my head that same night.
Okay.
And really with that, it's like I didn't kind of, as I said before, I didn't realize what it really meant until, now learning more. But it was really one of those like more spiritual moments where God told me to do this. And I,
Okay. So you found a calling after trying some other things that you knew didn't work, like FedEx.
yeah, and it was really just, speaking on, connecting my experiences as a DSP from the day program to the group home and just seeing, how well that group home was ran and still is ran and just seeing, how, great everyone was treated that lived at that place.
Okay.
And just comparing that to, horrific things I'd heard from people um, at my other job.
Right. Okay. Okay. I know I have friends, for example, with a Down child, and I have a niece who works out as a teacher in that space out in New York, and they find it incredibly rewarding, right? But there are challenges after they get done with the school age and stuff, and putting them into a longer term facility and
Hmm.
orchestrating that sort of stuff. What are the challenges that you have at 3DA?
Yeah, well, I definitely first want to touch on what you just said, because that is a big gap in the field is the transition stage from
Right.
special education into adulthood. And it's really important to make sure with like through school that, especially high school, that you're preparing yourself or your child for that transition into adulthood, by identifying, what are your aspirations in life, whether it's a career or where you want to live. Do you want to live by yourself? Those kind of things are really important questions to ask,
Mm.
especially, relating back to assistive technology. Someone might want to live on their own and they might need either like remote support, which could involve, a supervisor from a, virtual standpoint helping them, or it could be just a few different assistive technology devices helping them. So that, yeah, transitions that's a very like big area that I'm still looking to research more into and still looking to like dive deeper into because I know that a lot of people I've talked to have said the same thing, that there's just this cliff and it's just like,
Right.
well, what's next? There's a lot of answers out there that aren't being advertised or widespread enough for people.
Right. Right. Yeah. Like for example, my friend here, their son really struggled with that transition, and I don't need. He still is in the process of trying to work through it. School was great, right? Everything up to that point was awesome, and then yeah, the transition was hard. Speaking of transitions, you came out to Arizona and just started 3DA by yourself, more or less, or how did that work? Because
Yeah,
it's one thing just moving across the country. It's another thing to start up your own nonprofit with no experience. Am I
yeah,
thinking about
yeah.
this correctly?
Yeah, no, exactly. So that first year I was out here, so all of 2021 was really like getting early in 2021 was getting the board established, and then I was kind of figuring out next steps. By the fall, I think
Hmm.
I was meeting with different lawyers over the phone to figure out which one I wanted to pick, basically to help with our bylaws, so like the legal documents we needed to file. And then it was that next year that I filed 3DA, and then it only
Okay.
took 3 weeks to hear back from the state, which was really cool. And then from there, it really took, I'd say a good 2 years to really establish our, our priorities and, how, like what we're going to do on a day-to-day basis, what we stand for, all the stuff. Because I kind of into it saying, we're going to advocate for people with developmental disabilities, but there's a lot of things you can do, just
Sure.
clear
Sure.
and narrow. So yeah, it definitely took longer than I would have. Looking back, I wish I would have realized, oh, legal rights and assistive technology, those are our things, but it didn't definitely happen overnight by any
Yes.
means. And we're
Sometimes
still,
you have to feel it out and to see where the need is and what problems you can help solve.
yeah, absolutely.
And
Yeah,
they changed over COVID too, I imagine.
yes, yeah, definitely. There's a lot more people needing like special education related support. So like an IEP is an individualized education plan. A lot more people are needing that since COVID. There's also a lot of people being tested for various conditions that would require that aren't. It just so like the isolation definitely impacted a lot of like people, like especially like kids growing up and stuff.
Right.
I would say just where I was at in my life, it was definitely at a better time. I think if that would have happened to me when I was at that age, I probably would have done worse in school as well. Not that I
Hmm.
was a scholar or anything, I definitely wasn't, but I mean, I think it definitely has an impact on
Right.
education. There's already a burnout with teachers and special ed teachers and all that.
Okay. Okay. So let's dive into the weeds a little bit, if you're up for it, Sam. Tell us sort of the bigger programs you're implementing right now, and how
Yes. So
3DA works. And is it largely here in Phoenix?
yeah, so everything's remote that we do, so we don't have like a home address per se.
Okay.
But so our two main areas of operation, I always say, is for one, we have a lot of resources on our website. So we have almost 200 articles. We have a few videos. I'm working on some more. We have another page that even links a lot of state by state directories. So obviously a lot of stuff varies by state.
Mhm.
So our goal is to be nationwide long term, which
Okay.
will get into the second point of our operations, which is really policy and changing or trying to push for policy change. So as I kind of talked about before, we had our bill here in Arizona. I'm talking to people in New Hampshire about doing similar stuff there. There's also just other states that are, there's potential opportunities to work together to, try to push for the change. We're not going to be in all 50 states next year. I don't expect that, but there's definitely, room where we're going to be advocating in different areas for different things within our priorities. One thing that
Okay.
I'm looking at to do here next year is seeing what state statutes need to have better enforcement of assistive technology. Because assistive technology is supposed to be guaranteed for every student that has an IEP under federal law. That's under the IDEA reauthorization of 2004. So basically, a lot of the state statutes need to obviously like not replicate, but they need to have elements of IDEA into their state statutes because the federal law obviously applies to the states, but the state can obviously interpret different things differently. So what I've been doing is looking at the state statutes and seeing what areas can we add the emphasis of assistive technology to make sure that every student is, being considered for assistive technology and then being met with the devices as well as related services as promised under federal law. Because some issues I hear down here is that there's some school districts that just will be resistant to give people assistive technology or
Hmm.
just think that, oh, they don't need this device. They're okay kind of thing when really they're supposed to be, every student's supposed to be considered on at least an annual basis and then, being met with that. So that's a bit more about our work and some of the current kind of things I'm working on as well. But
Okay. Maybe you talk a little bit about how about one of the bigger challenges you've had to overcome at 3DA.
yeah, I mean, the biggest challenge is definitely that we don't have any paid staff. I still work at a restaurant Thursday through Sunday while getting
Okay.
off the ground. So I'm still doing 40, 50-hour weeks, but I'm not, when I'm there, like the job itself isn't like stressful or anything like that. It's just, running around here and there. But it's the aspect of not having paid staff to do this. But one thing that's been really, really wonderful is we have this great internship program that we started last summer, and our fourth group right now is kind of wrapping up. So we have a group in the spring, in the summer, and the fall. They all work 12 weeks, about 10 hours a week is what I ask, and we have them
Okay.
do they do research in all different areas. So we have people researching legal rights, so that'd be like court cases, policies around the country, that kind of stuff. We have people researching assistive technology topics, people researching history as well, which is really, really fascinating because it makes sense to why things are the way they are today, but it's
All
also
right.
cool, not just from like history of the US, but we've had people look at like cultural
Mhm.
differences in perception of disability. It's really fascinating. And then we also have people that help with like marketing, things of that nature as well, and journalism. And I hope I'm not forgetting anyone. We had two people doing grant research. And I think and we have general research for a review journal as well that we're putting together. So
Okay.
they've been a lot of help with the operations, but yeah, definitely just not having paid staff is definitely something that's, we could be doing a lot more than we are. I feel like I'm doing a lot with, what we have, but if we had, paid staff or if I was even able to do this full time, that would make things, heightened to just such a new level that I couldn't even, fathom at the moment.
Okay. Well, so Irrespective of the hurdles for that, what are the biggest couple of goals you have for 3DA?
Yeah, that's a great question. So long term, it really is to be nationwide and, as many states as we're able to. Have our website be, a known resource in the field, not just in the field, but also for, the general public as well to know, like, oh, I have a question about developmental disabilities. Oh, go to 3day.org. Really making it a household name is definitely something. And then we're also going to be starting a membership program soon. So being able to have obviously the membership program will help raise money for what we're trying to do, but also will create this whole, community aspect of what we're already trying to do. Because we have
Right.
interns that are, their time with us is temporary. They're always, remembered and everything like that. But if they're only working 12 weeks and, some of them I might not hear from again. I want to hear back from everyone, long term, but I might not. So having, permanent, members be really a part of this. And we're also starting an advisory committee that's just for people specifically with intellectual developmental disabilities, because we need their feedback on what we're doing. Because while most of our board members have a family member with a developmental disability, it's important to
Yeah.
have a group in our organization specifically for people with intellectual and developmental disabilities to give their feedback on our
Right.
work and give perspective where it's needed.
Okay. That sounds like some great goals, right? And that can be incredibly impactful, right? And what if we sort of wrap up the scope of 3DA, where do you envision it going in the next 10, 20 years? What's your hope?
Yeah, I think just to touch on what I said before, about being a household name, I
Okay.
think it's definitely, I think we can do that in, I'd say 3 to 5 years at the most. Honestly,
Okay.
I'm really confident we could do that. As I said before, once we have paid staff and even myself able to do this, like for real full time, not having to work at a restaurant full time while doing this full time,
Mhm.
that'll take it all to new heights. And being in all the states, just the amount of people I've been able to connect with and things I've been able to do while even like on the shift at work, I'm emailing people and doing stuff. So the fact that I'm doing that in the middle of things just shows that I'll be able to do even more when, that time allows for me to just be, free just through DA. That's the
For
focus.
sure. For sure.
So yeah, I definitely expect us to be a household name in our resources and with our advocacy too. I don't have a set number about like, we're going to have X amount of bills passed by, 2030. I don't have a set quota like that. I think next year will definitely be a big jump because this year we had our first bill. Next year we'll have multiple bills in multiple states, as I've been telling
Okay.
people. And we'll definitely see where it goes from there. But yeah, it's hard for me to have like a set number goal for like, oh, we're going to have exactly this or exactly, you know, a
Sure.
thousand articles at this time of year, wherever. But yeah,
Okay. Okay. Well, great, Sam. So, if people would like to connect with you or learn more about 3DA, what should they do? Where can they go?
yes, go to 3da.org. You can learn everything about us on our contact us page. There'll be a form you can submit, and that'll just go straight to me, and I'll contact you from there. My email might be under the our board page as well. It might not be on it anymore, which is fine. And you can also connect with me on LinkedIn too. I love connecting with people on there and just seeing how there's ways to work together or to meet, help people meet their needs. I was going to mention that before about your friend. If you want to give them my email, that, maybe there's a way I can help them in that transitionary stage or whatever. I'd be happy to at least have a
Okay.
conversation.
All
Um,
right. Thank you.
but yeah, 3da.org for sure. You'll find everything on there. There's ways to contact us, way to follow us on social media, way to read our articles. We have a lot of articles on there, and it's very important for people to learn more about the field, whether you're directly impacted or not. It's very important in general to know these things. So
Right.
yeah,
Right. Okay. All right. Good stuff. That's awesome. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for listening and watching. Thank you, Sam Shepard, for joining
thank
me
you,
today.
thank you. I appreciate your time.
All right. Appreciate you sharing your story and your quest, I guess, right? Your calling, and your we wish you a lot of success and continued impact. Thank you.
Thank you.
Inspired by our guests? Visit phoenixprosperitypodcast.com/guest and join us on the show and share your success story with Tim. The spotlight awaits.